Okay, we're answering the question how to make brown red wine sauce. Now, brown red wine sauce in French cooking, and of course they invented or certainly discovered the idea and cultivated it and made it popular, is in the French repertoire referred to as Bordelaise sauce. Bordelaise sauce meaning made with Bordeaux wine, typically Bordelaise, and you certainly need a dry red wine to grab the spirit of this great sauce. Okay? Now, that sauce is made by sautéing some mirepoix, which is what we're going to do right now. We're going to put a little bit of butter in a little sauté pan here, and we're going to mince up some celery, carrots, and onions. It's made by sautéing the mirepoix, reducing the red wine, and then adding brown sauce. And we have some really nice brown red wine sauce, brown sauce here that, as you can see, I just took out of the refrigerator, and it's fairly gelatinized slightly, you see? So let's get the mirepoix cut up quickly in the food processor. You certainly can do this by hand, but I'm showing you the quick way of doing this. Don't puree it now, whatever you do, because you don't want to affect the color of your sauce. There you go. Now we'll take the mirepoix, put it in the pan. A little extra piece of onion there. And we'll put a little bit of dried leaf thyme and some bay leaves and a little bit of pepper. And after that cooks for a minute, a little bit of garlic. Now, again, we're using a dry red wine, and the rule of thumb for the amount of wine to use for the amount of sauce that you want to make should be whatever the amount of sauce is you want. Let's say you want to make a quart of sauce, and you should begin with a quart of wine as part of that wine sauce. And then you reduce that wine by 75%. So we're going to add a little bit of garlic now. And let me get a spoon here. Let's mix the garlic in there. Okay, now I'm probably going to end up with about 5 to 6 cups here of sauce. So that's how much wine I put in there. Okay? Now we're going to let that reduce. This is going to be a time-elapsed recipe demonstration again, and we'll be back in a minute, or almost right now. But we're going to let this reduce for approximately 15 minutes or whatever length of time it takes for this to reduce 75%. Red wine reduction with the mirepoix and garlic and the thyme and bay leaf for the brown red wine sauce. Now, here's the brown sauce, and this has been simmering now. As you can see, this is mainly a bunch of veggies now, moistened with about a cup of wine now. Now we're going to add the brown sauce to this. And like I said, we wanted about 5 cups of sauce in the final analysis, so we're going to add about 5 cups of brown sauce to this, which is right around there. And we'll give that a little mix. And we'll let that come to a simmer for a minute. And after it simmers for about 3 to 4 minutes, and we're going to time-elapse this demonstration one more time, we're going to come back then and strain it through a chinois or a fine screen strainer. And then we're going to put it into a saucepan, and then we're going to check the texture and adjust the final consistency and seasoning of the sauce. Then we'll demonstrate how this sauce looks on a plate. Brown sauce is taking a couple of minutes to become part of that red wine reduction for the red wine brown sauce. And we're going to now strain this and begin the final process of making the sauce, which is adjusting the texture and the seasoning. So first, we're going to strain this. Let me show you what that looks like real quick. Now it's just a slightly watery brown red wine juice with the mirepoix floating in it still. Now we're going to strain this through the fine screen, which is definitely the strainer that you want to strain this kind of sauce in, because you want to affect the final outcome of the texture as it appears on the plate, etc. Okay? That. And this would be the way, of course, to strain your sauce, by punching down with the ladle in your china cap or your chinois. And we will discard all of the used mirepoix. We've extracted and used all the flavor that there is to be had there. Okay. This is a nice looking sauce. Of course, we started out with a very, very good brown sauce. And as you can see now, it's a little bit watery, you see? And now we're going to put it back on the flame, and we're going to do a little bit more time-elapsed cooking here by letting this reduce the sauce consistency. We're not going to add any roux or thickening agent to this. This brown sauce that we added to the red wine reduction already had a little bit of cornstarch in it too. So that should suffice for this sauce. So we're going to let this reduce for 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes, and we'll be right back to. We have allowed the red wine sauce to simmer and come down to sauce consistency. I'm very satisfied with that. This has been cooking for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you will see in a minute as we finish this sauce. And let me talk about the finishing process here. The finishing process typically includes adjusting the texture, which is what we've been doing by reducing this. And now the final seasoning. Now, we should certainly not confuse seasoning with flavor. Seasoning means salt and maybe pepper. That's what seasoning means. Flavor is something outside of salt and pepper, okay? So one thing we can do to this sauce, which I'm going to begin by doing, is doing what we call buttering the sauce, which is an option for the cook. If one's concerned about putting butter in it, then don't do it. This is a way of mellowing, and it's a finishing process. The formula for this is 2 ounces of whole, soft, unsalted butter per quart of sauce or soup. So I'm going to take a couple ounces of butter, whole, soft butter, which I just put in there, and we're going to beat it in here until it's completely absorbed into the sauce. Then we're going to taste it. And remember, you're always using unsalted butter for this. Otherwise, you'd be adding salt to your sauce at the same time, and you don't want to do that. Okay. That butter is absorbed. Now, this sauce needs a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And this sauce needs a little sugar, which I have to get. I'm going to add a little pinch of sugar to this, because sometimes with the red wine particularly, you sometimes have a slight under flavor bitterness, okay? And just a pinch of sugar, not to make it sweet, of course. And a little bit more sugar, a little bit more salt. Again, we're being careful not to add too much salt and any one addition of the salt, so we don't accidentally make it too salty. We want to build up the salt flavor in it. A little bit more salt still. This is a good sauce. Now let me show you on a plate what the texture of this sauce looks like. There we go. Not too thick, not too thin. Nice, clear, clean sauce. So this would certainly be considered to be the mother of basic brown red wine sauces in cooking. And that's exactly what we've shown you. A good red wine brown sauce in the style of French cooking.